Okay, well, good day, Common Sense Warriors. We are live. Well, we're not live, we're recording, but I've had a few technical difficulties today so far, so we're running a little bit late on our calendar. Hopefully when it goes into post-production with Reiner, everything goes well. So I'm going to give Reiner kudos on the post-production. We're kind of hamstringing all of the stuff that we're doing. And we don't have we're kind of doing this on our own dime, so low budget, everything that we're doing here. So anyways, we're kind of stumbling through it as we go along. So bear with us, everybody. Today, we've got an awesome guest, Jerome Bouvier. Jerome has been the recipient of the 2012 Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Medal, 2012 BC Community Achievement Award, 2011 Courage to Come Back Award, 2010 Pocomo Youth Services Society wins for Not for the Profit of the Year Award. Published author. His book, Unbreakable, The Power of the Human Spirit, I've been just kind of briefly reading it, and it's amazing. And talking to Jerome before we came on the air, yeah, you guys are in for a treat. So, Jerome, thanks for coming on Common Sense Warriors. Really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I look forward to it.
All right. So, Jerome, in case you can't tell, Jerome is in a wheelchair, and Jerome was in a accident in 1983. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that all happened, or why don't you just tell us a little bit about your life?
Oh, okay.
First, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, in a chair, vertically challenged, as they
Vertically
say.
challenged.
Go figure. 83, yeah, I was 24 years old. I can't remember if it was 24 years old in 83 or 23 years old in 84. So I'll go with either one.
Okay, whatever works, man. It doesn't matter. We're not going to hold you to it.
Maybe to a certain age.
You just kind of, yeah, well, it's the 80s, right? So you're lucky to even remember the 80s. So that was, yeah, and those 80s were the cause of, it was the influence to where I ended up in the chair. So
Yeah.
it was those crazy days and water skiing, wasted, on Sacramento River, going about 60 miles an hour behind a speedboat. The boat went left, I went straight. My skis caught and shot me out of my ski, and I somersaulted across the water and crashed into the rocks.
Oh.
And I was floating there, face up. A friend was there, people on the side, and of course the ambulance came, all that stuff, and I spent a month in a coma, just over 5.5 months in the hospital, and came out shorter than I was when I went in.
Yeah, I guess quite a bit shorter, eh?
Quite a bit shorter.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you said you were high. So I mean, Jerome, you have an amazing background, man. So why don't you go back from the very beginning? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and a little bit about how you said you were high. There's obviously you had a lot of fun in the '80s, obviously, but not always the good, clean fun, right? So.
Yeah. No. Well, you're 23-ish, 24-ish, like a lot of young people. You're invincible, right? So I mean. I was in horse racing at the time, racing horses as a groom and driving, and we got into the horse business early on when I was in my mid-teens, and I ended up in California in the early 80s for a job. And what I got introduced to at that time was even more of the drug world. Mm-hmm. When I went down to California, I was playing, but not to the extent that I got introduced to when I hit California.
Okay.
And it just escalated, and cocaine became my best friend. And I went everywhere with my friend, did everything with my friend, introduced my friend to everybody, and it just got out of hand. I mean, I was sleeping in cars, I was sleeping in tack rooms, I was just partying, and at the end of the day, I mean, as we've talked before coming on, was I liked the lifestyle. It wasn't that, oh my gosh, something happened to me and I needed to use. It was like, holy cow, I like this.
Yeah.
The people I met, the people I partied with, celebrities and so on, and I just enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The problem was you didn't realize that that kind of enjoyment could lead you to a beach,
Yeah.
so to speak. So
not the right kind of beach. But,
and that's what I got into, and so I ended up getting hurt and coming out in 5.5 or so months later, and went right back to it.
Yeah, you didn't miss a beat, did you?
Nope. In fact, I was getting high before I got out of the hospital.
Wow.
I was providing half the doctors when I was in the hospital.
Really?
I was doing all kinds of things. I met a guy in the hospital who, funny thing is, I recognized him when we were in the rehab room where you learned how to sit up and put your shoes on and all these things you had to relearn, right?
Right.
Everything you had to relearn. You're like being an infant again. And I'm in the rehab room, and this guy was sitting in a corner in a chair, and his wife was with him. And I looked at him. He looked familiar. I guess, where do I place him? Well, as we got to talking, I introduced myself. We started talking. We passed each other on the beach that day on the river.
Really?
He got hurt water skiing. There was 5 people got hurt water skiing in 3 weeks, more than in the last 5 years. And Barney was his name, and we passed each other on the river. That's how I knew him.
Wow.
And we started talking, and Barney hooked me up with ability to make a living, so to speak, in different ways. And that's how I started to make a living then, because I was wondering, do I go back to horses? What do I do, right? I didn't know what to do.
So you didn't miss a beat. You got back into it, and then where did you end up?
I got right back into it. My biggest challenge was when I was getting released from the hospital. I had nowhere to live, no money, and no job, and I didn't want to come home to BC. So I had to figure out a way to do this. So making money was the Barney connection. I started dealing is what happened.
Okay.
And then I found a place to stay. Was my ex-girlfriend's brother's place in South Langley, not South Langley, South Sacramento. And so when I got hurt, I had a 1970 Firebird, and my buddy took it to a place to get hand controls on it.
Oh, okay.
And so when I was getting released that day, he showed up with my Firebird. We piled everything out of my room. I mean, I paid $100-some thousand for this thing. I took everything, the mattress, you name it, I took it. I strapped the mattress to the top of the car, right?
Wow.
So I climbed in the passenger seat.
In a 1970 Firebird.
In 1970 Firebird. And I climbed into the passenger seat. My buddy drove to the place that put the hand controls on the car.
Yeah.
We sat at a restaurant and hung out. And when they got it done, we went and picked it up. We drove to a parking lot of a grocery store. And I got into the driver's seat, and I drove around for about 2 hours. And that's how I learned how to drive. And then drove to the house I was staying in. Got to the house, and there's 6 steps to get into the house.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, oh, shit, I forgot about steps.
Yeah.
Right? So then I sat there and got high and tried to figure out how to get into the house. So then we giggled and laughed, and then we looked over, and there was this old picket fence next door. It wasn't the greatest area of town. And what we did was we tore apart half the fence and built a ramp into the house. And that's how I got into the house. And then I got into the house and wheeled around and checked my room out, and then went to the bathroom to see the bathroom door, which is the first thing. When you buy a house and you're in a chair, the first thing you check, it's not the view,
Right.
it's the bathroom.
Okay.
You can't get in the bathroom, the view is useless.
Yep.
So I couldn't get in the bathroom. The door was not wide enough. It was an old house. And I'm like, oh, sheep dip, right? What do you do? So went back to the fence, took a bunch of wood down, built a about a 6-foot long bench, was about 2 feet wide, and it stuck out into the hallway. So I got onto the bench, I slid all the way into the bathroom. I would just swing one way to the other to get to the bathtub or the toilet or whatever. That was my first adventure into getting out of the hospital. That was the first day.
Wow.
The first day or two getting out of the hospital. And then the third day, I was on the grass underneath my car changing the starter. So
You didn't miss a beat then.
I didn't. Yeah, you had to change the starter, man. You just had to do things.
Those hand controls are interesting. I had a friend that was paraplegic, and I drove his Jeep a few times, and of course he hurt himself in a 4x4 accident. He had a Jeep, and his favorite drink was a paralyzer because he said I didn't quite do a good enough job. But the hand controls are a weird feeling to control the car. It was just...
If you have control of your legs like you do, you don't do the hand controls. Your body can't react the right way.
It was weird.
What I used to do is I used to drive downtown and put my feet on the dash of the car and drive around, and people look over and go, and I just wave, keep going, and they just had no idea that, of course, I was driving with my hand controls.
Right.
So again, the first out of the hospital was the challenge of what do I do, how do I do it, and you have to do it for the most part, and I pushed myself to do it. So that was it, and then from there I got into the dealing and making a living doing that.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best way to do it, but it allowed me to make money. But
It's a necessity, right? You need to pay your bills. You gotta.
And it kept me in the lifestyle I liked.
Yeah.
And I was also very mindful of course, my clientele, so to speak. It was racetrack people, so it was always people I knew. It was nothing more than that. So it just provided me that means to continue to do what I did, continue continue to live where I wanted to live and continue the lifestyle that I wanted to do. You know, that was in the mid-'80s.
And that's a path you were on for a little while, but I mean, obviously you're not in it anymore, but what changed you? What got you kind of going on the straight and narrow, or the...
Well, a few things along the way. You hit bumps and you kind of reassess and you kind of challenge yourself about what am I doing and where am I going. The big one was a friend of mine. He was a junkie and he used quite a bit. And myself and a buddy of mine were helping him try to get clean. He used heroin. And now imagine this, you got two cocaine freaks helping a heroin junkie get clean.
Yeah.
It was an adventure.
No doubt, yeah.
So, but we were doing it, you know, it was so cool that we were actually helping this guy.
Yeah.
And he was doing real well. He had a daughter, his wife had left, took his daughter, so he lost his family. That's why it influenced him. He wanted to get clean. And so we helped. So a couple months into it, he was doing really well, and we understood he was going to be having his daughter visit for the first time.
Okay.
So what happened, long story short, was I get a call early in the morning from him, and he was all blizzard, and I'm like, what's going on? Damn, man, are you all right? And then the phone went dead. So I drove over to his house and got into the house, and I was wheeling around yelling, you know, where are you, right? And he said there was a party, you know, there's no one there. It was quiet. So I'm up one room into the kitchen all over the place, and I go back into the kitchen, there's needles and stuff all over the table. I'm like, oh, shit, right?
Yeah.
So I start up and down the hallway, and I went by one room, in by bathroom, I look in, and he had fallen out of his chair in the kitchen, and he had fell between the fridge and the counter. Mm-hmm. So I had to get him up and into a chair, and then he started babbling about his daughter, and I figured what was going on. So then back through the house and by the bedroom. I go into the bedroom and I look around. I didn't see anything, and my front wheel got caught on the comforter, and I was moving around trying to untangle it, and the comforter pulled over, and I saw a set of feet. So I went around the side of the bed, and I looked down. There was a young girl there. So I threw myself down on the ground, pulled myself over, checked her. She had no pulse, and I tried to revive her. And all I can remember was yelling at her not to go. And I said, 1, 2, 3, breathe, 1, 2, 3, breathe, went through the process, called 911, kept doing it. Paramedics showed up. I dragged myself to the side. They came in, did what they could do, and then they stopped. And they said, she's gone. And I remember grabbing her and pulling her over and going, no, you're not. I'm shaking her, trying to wake her up. It was his daughter, you know, his daughter.
And he had just finally got her back.
Yeah.
How old was she?
14.
Oh.
So it was, you know, that night sitting at home and all that going through my head, I'm thinking, shit, man, I can't be doing this much longer, man. It's crazy. Something's going to happen. And that was the slap in the head and going, okay, man, you can't. So slowly, as we talked earlier too, was harm reduction. I was like, okay, I need to take this out of my life, and then this, and changing the way I chose an alternate way of living.
And I applaud you for that, because like harm reduction is the term that a lot of people use, like getting off heroin, going on to methadone, or you know, methadone doesn't take anything away. It just doesn't get you high anymore. You don't have to go through the withdrawals, from what I understand. But I don't think we're using harm reduction enough in our society.
Agreed.
As a tool to deal with the opiate crisis. Like now, you look at what we're dealing with now in Canada and the United States with the opioid epidemic, and there's no other word to use, but it's an epidemic, and we need to have different ways of dealing with it rather than just making them go clean and sober. There's harm reduction. There's all kinds of different ways, and you did it on your own.
Yeah, no,
and that's the amazing thing.
I didn't go to a program. I didn't, you know, like I said, people ask me and say harm reduction. Back then, I didn't know it was harm reduction. It was just like I wanted to stop this first. Yeah. And then slowly over the few years, I got to a point to where I was in New York racing horses. Again, I was back not dealing, but also in the horse business. Yeah. I was back east in New York and Delaware racing, and you know, I think that's where I took my last joint. That was it, right? It was like, okay, but I got from snorting, you know, piles a day to just smoking weed. And it took me 2-3 years to do that. And then it's like, okay, all I had was maybe the odd drink and smoking a joint. Hell of a lot better than lining up until you can't breathe.
Well, and you were saying that was never your issue. Like you can take or leave booze, but you know, if somebody was to get a razor blade on a mirror and you'd be like, oh, okay.
You had that little tapping sound, you just
Yeah.
kind of get the shivers, and you kind of go, ooh, okay. But other than that, that's, yeah. So that was my push out.
So you're in the horse business, you're living in New York, and you got it. But how did you get from being in the horse business into the youth service business, the youth worker type of thing? Like you went from there to Douglas College in a couple of years, or
Yeah, it was in a couple. Well, you know,
So
it was
what was
in New
your
York.
call? What was your call to action on that? Like, what was there?
Jersey, East Rutherford, New Jersey. We were racing horses there, and I was based out of there. And a buddy of mine and I were going down Camden. It's kind of like Compton.
yeah.
Right? Camden. So we were driving, looking for something, right? Looking for some weed. And I remember driving around and going by this playground and seeing this person in the distance. And I thought, what? So I drive up, and kid pops his jacket open. He's got all these little plastic bags. A kid, he was like 14, going, hey, dude. But I'm like, shit, you're like 14. He's like, told me to F off. If you want something, keep driving, right?
Yeah.
And we kept driving. And we got back to the barn, and we were token up and thinking, holy shit, the kid was 4. So the next day I went down and went to the community center. And I just started talking to them and asked if there's anything I could do to help. So I ended up just hanging out and talking to kids, and I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
So then I moved from there to Quebec. My dad, we shipped horses up to Quebec, coming back to Canada. We was there, and then I decided, okay, it was time for a change. Came out west, was racing horses, and I went back to college. So I never had my high school, so I went back and did as a mature student.
Yeah.
And got my diploma in child and youth care. And then from there, started my first job was outreach in Langley, and then into drug treatment, and then school prevention, and way I went to running programs, creating programs, running an agency for 15 years, outreach to kids on the street, creating programs, speaking, teaching at Douglas College for a while, things like that. But the horses never left me that far. That was always my kind of happy place.
Yeah.
You know, so we had horses along the way, and
Well, and there's the movie called The Horse Whisperer. They call you the Youth Whisperer. How did you get that one?
Oh, a friend of mine was introducing me at the college one day to the students, and that's what they use. I was speaking to 200 or 300 students in the hall, and she used that, and I just kind of giggled. And it's a compliment, and I'm honored for that. It's just the way that, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there that connect with young people. I've just been very fortunate to be able to get it, and they understand it. Visually, they see it. You know, you don't have to tell a story. They can tell you right away that, okay, he gets it.
Yeah.
Because he's been through shit. He's in a chair. You know, it's not like something that you can't see, really, until you start talking to somebody.
You've been through a hell and back, even probably more hell than they've gone through.
Yeah, and they get it. And the kids are, bright, and especially the kids that really need that kind of support. And I learned, the greatest gift I was given was this chair. It allowed me to do the things I've done in my life and be where I am, sitting here doing this with you guys, meeting new people in Langley area is a blessing, is a bonus, because it expands your knowledge base, expands to meet people doing some really cool things at a grassroots level. Met my wife, horses, there's all kinds of things. The other piece was my greatest teachers have been the kids.
That's
Those
awesome.
Kids have taught me a lot. So every program I ever developed, no matter if it was just a drama group to an agency, it was all influenced by the young people giving me input and creating programs that worked for them.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing with kids is that they need some input into what they're doing in their life. They need something.
Listening. How about listening to people?
That's
what a great way to actually accomplish
number one
things.
thing to do. You're right. The number one is listening. Just hear. That's all they want is somebody to hear them. They don't want to tell them what they need to do.
Yeah.
They just want you to listen.
And
Acknowledge that you are actually valuing what they have to say. It's not a complicated theory.
Well, I one of my mentors when I was working, he told me, God only gave you one mouth, but God gave you 2 ears.
Yeah.
So you need to do twice as much listening as you do talking. And I tell whoever wants to listen to that, I'll say that. Like, there's a reason why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, is that we're supposed to listen twice as much as we are talking.
Well, they say it takes a whole village to raise a child.
Yeah.
However, I've come to discover it takes the troubles of youth to raise a village.
Yeah.
Hear them, and they will guide us. Are we listening?
We're not listening right now.
We're not listening.
And we were talking about that earlier. Like, everything's got a label now. And I've never heard this before, and it's absolutely brilliant. And you had a friend who's an Indigenous guy, and he said he's got ADD.
Yeah,
And it's like
he called me up one day. I was telling you that he called me up. He says, "Jerome, I figured it out," because he was diagnosed with ADD. And he said, "Jerome, I figured it out." I said, "What do you mean you figured it out?" He says, "I figured it out. I needed attention. There was a deficit of it, so I got a disorder." And he's right.
It's true.
You need attention. You're not paying it, so you're like, "Hello, bang, bang, crash, crash. Look at me." And so we'll just give you this little pill every morning, and you'll be fine. Well, no, he needed attention, and he finally got it.
There's probably other underlying factors, and we can't. And I think that's what the part of the problem is everything's got a label now. Everything needs to be diagnosed as a label, or you identify as something, and everything's got an identity now. Oh, I'm ADD, I'm this, I'm that. And I'm sure that there's a lot of like valid reasons. I've seen kids that are attention deficit, and there's attention deficit hyperactive, but they're still just kids.
They're still kids.
They just want attention, and I learned that with my kids from my aunt. And she said they just want to be a part of it. They just want to spend time with you. They don't even want anything.
I think people in authority are jumping to conclusions about ADD and things way too fast.
Well, and
when we were young, when we were young boys, we were idiots. We were always causing trouble.
Young boys are
making
idiots.
noises.
Yeah.
We were always. I mean, and then nowadays, if the kids were doing the same things we were doing when we were young, oh man, we'd be full of Ritalin. We'd be full of all kinds of stuff.
You get a label. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
but
you have to
in
label it because they have to
actuality,
treat it.
We were just boys.
But you know what it is? What I found over the years is it's easy. It's easy for us to stamp a label, a number, a letter, a distinction, a category, because it serves our purpose.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve the kids' purpose, it serves our purpose.
Yeah.
And if we get away from serving our purpose and focus more on serving their purpose, our whole social service system can shift and do something a little different. But that is asking, to pull teeth out your ears.
Well,
it's tough to
It's
do.
easier to give kids a pill and calm them down
much
than it
easier.
is to actually learn and figure out.
Or
how
give
to-
more money to a program, or do something with the kids that, well, that costs too much money, but we'll just give them this little pilly, and look at they just sit in the car and go, yeah.
Exactly.
You drug them up, and then they're not even half the person. But they've been labeled with something.
And how can they continue to learn, and how can they develop
Yeah.
and grow if you're drugging them up from the get go?
And that's what the kids have told me over the 30 years I spent in there, and blessed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But every young person I ever worked with, from one extreme to another, living on the street, you name it, told me they just want to be heard, they just want to be listened to. They don't want somebody to tell you what to do. They know what they're doing is not the best choices.
Yeah.
They just want somebody to hear it, throw it out there, let them deconstruct it, figure it out, take what they need, put it inside themselves, and then move forward, and you're there to support them.
And that-
like parents, too, it's like, just be patient.
Yeah.
Don't rush. Oh, my kids are doing this. They're doing this. The choice. He's going to be a junkie. He's going to live on these time. He's 12. Just chill out. Talk about it. Acknowledge it. Give him a hug. When he's ready, he'll hear you, and give him another hug. And then away he goes, and give him another hug. And away he goes, and give him another hug. And by the time he's 20-ish, he's going to remember the hugs. He's not going to remember the bashing over the head about not doing this and shouldn't do that.
Well, you need to do this.
bubble wrapping.
I know that when I was a kid, if somebody told me to do something, I would do the exact opposite.
Yeah, that's
Well, you shouldn't smoke cigarettes. Boom. I'm going to go buy. Oh, watch me. And it's like, oh, smoking will kill you. Great. Perfect. I'm gonna test that because then you have a cigarette and it's like, oh, I'm not dead yet.
When I'm in a classroom, I would tell a story about, I would say, okay, don't look behind that door over there, because behind the door there's an ugly green monster. Don't you dare look behind that door. The minute I'm out of the classroom, what are you going to do?
Look behind the door.
Well, that behind that green monster could be pot, could be heroin, could be cocaine, could be anything. And once you play with that green monster, he likes that. And some of you will dance and leave. Some of you will taste and leave. Some of you will dance for a while and struggle to leave. Some of you will not leave.
Yeah.
So be careful when you start opening the door to something that you know you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And so we would talk a lot about that in the Green Monster. It's going over the years. The kids go, hey, tell the story about the Green Monster. Okay, well, here we go. And then we just have that. So I've been, like I said, it's been blessed for the 30 years working in the field. It's been over a year or so that I haven't been back there, but it's been something.
Well, you're on to other thing, and we'll cover it. Well, you're on to new, you don't sit around and there's no grass growing under your feet kind of thing, right? Or,
Not lately. No, I took some time when I left. I just stepped away and decided I got into the horses, back into the horses more fully in 2015. And, I miss them. That's kind of, like I said, my wife and I, that's our happy place. So after a day, you go there and you hang out with your with the horses and a newborn. Jojo was born, 7 days ago. So we have a little one, and it's just a joy to go down and see him, and it just relieves everything from the day. And so myself, I spend more time there now. I'm nurturing other things, but right now I just with the horses and trying to focus on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And we decided over the last year to look at creating a new nonprofit for rehoming, repurposing retired standardbred racehorses. There's such a need. There's so many horses that get tossed after a career or giving a short bit of career and enjoyment to an owner, and then they go, okay, I want to move on, toss them. Well, no.
Yeah.
We owe them more than that for what they've given. So there is a couple organizations that try to do that, but there's such a need that we decided we would, with friends, create our own. So we created the Safe Haven Standardbred Adoption Society. We'll be launching it probably the end of the summer as we start getting things together. And our whole hope is to, rehome anywhere from 6 to 10 horses a year easily. Find them their forever homes. We've done it with 2 of our own already. They're up at a place called Coldwater Ranch in Merritt.
Oh, yeah.
600 acres. And they, they're awesome horses. And one, we lent them for the summer. The other one, that's his home. He isn't going anywhere. And so that's what we want to do. And so it's a new beginning that way. That's where I'm going to put my focus part-time, aside as well as training my other horses I have. So
that kind of like the horses have never left you, so it's been kind of that's your foundation, that's your base, right? So you've gone and done youth work, but there's always been the horses. Anybody who is watching or listening goes to Fraser Downs, I'm sure that your dad, I do recognize your dad's name from when we'd go to the horses when I was a kid, and we'd watch the horse races and have some fun. And when I used to live right around the corner from there, we'd take the kids down there, and they loved going down right on the home stretch there. You can go outside and you can watch them run by. And your dad, he's been in the horse business almost his whole life, and then
60 plus years. Yeah, he's 87. Yeah. So
and still kind of trucking along, but
still kind of trucking along. Yeah, he's one of 20 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
His family his brothers and sisters are slowly leaving us, and he's like I said, he's 87. He doesn't spend as much time with the horses as he used to, but right up to last year, he was, still behind them, still doing his thing and training horses, so I put him down as trainer because he works with me a fair amount. And so yeah, that's where we're spending our time there right now. It's summertime, so they're training back in the next few weeks to focus on September start time at Fraser.
Yeah.
Right. The racing starts mid-September this year.
So your nonprofit that you're talking about, it's interesting that there's a need for that, and I mean I'm coming from the position of I know a lot of stuff, I listen, I pay attention to stuff, but I had no clue that horses ended up in the position where you were talking about. I always thought that racehorses, they went to stud. That was your retirement. They go hang out in fields and they're stud. I mean, that's got to be some kind of an average thought about racer. Who knew racehorses were sent to places where they're worked to death, basically. I mean, it's just a bizarre notion when I heard about it first from you there a few weeks back. I'm like, what?
Well, people assume, they don't know, because a lot of the horses, they're either sold to the Amish, and they're used for different uses, obviously, with the Amish, but they only reach a certain age with the Amish, and then they're overused, and then they end up getting to kill pens. And some here, if they're broke down, it's a different dynamic to some degree, but at the end of the day, they're just trying to get rid of. And they go to either Amish or kill pens or neglected, and a good number of them are trying to get homes. What we found is that there's more and more horses being retired, and we need to find really good caring homes where they can live their life out, doing with, riding trails, whatever. So we've been fortunate to rehome, like I said, 2 of ours right away, and so we decided we'd get into it. And so I'm trying to craft numbers or get together numbers of retired and homed, because they don't have a lot of numbers. There's been a lot of other research done around it.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into it a lot differently as an organization. Our model of retraining and repurposing the horses is different. It doesn't go to one farm, for example, have 2 or 3 people work on 4 or 5 or 6 horses. we have host trainers, so it goes to, say, 4 different farms with 4 different people, you know, retraining 1 or 2 horses at a time in different places, because that network is so key.
Yeah.
When you're going to rehome, who do we find out? Who do we shout out? Hey, we got this horse here that's available. Come and see him. Come and meet him. Check him out. Hear his story. Learn about him. How he got from, you know, being a baby to where he is today, and his personality and so on. So we're excited to make that happen. We just need now to, of course, get the financial piece going, get some donations, get people in to support what we're doing. It's so important.
Well, that's awesome. And yeah, well, it's interesting you talk about the horses like you talk about the kids.
Yeah, you know, and there's, you know, have you heard of Neon Rider, the show?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know the guy, Danny Virtue, who created the show. Of course, Canada didn't want it, so he went down to LA and they did it. And he has a farm out in Mission, and he worked with kids. I thought, I want to do that. So we had a farm in Minnetonka Farm in Port Coquitlam. And it was about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I tried to get that farm because I wanted to combine what I'm doing, helping kids, with putting the horses in there.
That sounds great,
And I almost had it.
Oh.
And government said, no, we're going to keep it and just let people look at it. So I never got to use it. So maybe one day, we got lots of places out here in Langley, you never know. But it's a start now, and I'd really love to have kids involved with coming to, you know, on a weekend, work with these horses and get to know them and the kids. One thing about horses, I tell kids, they never say anything, and they always listen.
Yeah.
Something we can learn from our animals. You know, just look into a horse. You don't.
Well, and horses have a personality. Like, I don't care who you talk to. Like, horses have personality. Like, they all have their own unique personality, just like people do.
They're very intuitive. I mean, with me working around them, I have horses that walk right up to me. They hang out. They put, you know, I can lead them. I put the lead rope in my mouth and just wheel around, and they follow me. I stop, they stop, they go. You know, they'll bump into me and kind of walk into me, but I just, hey, come on, and they back up.
Yeah, they're testing their limits,
right?
Just
If I can
like
work around
kids.
them, anybody, exactly.
Yeah.
So I have a great time with them, and my wife and friends. We always invite people out to come and see them, come and enjoy, come and get to learn the behind the scenes, because you go to the races, you see 1 minute and 60 seconds or 1 minute, and you go, okay, that's cool. But it takes you weeks to get a horse to that spot, the day prep of the racing, the post after the racing. It's a whole one long day of racing just one horse for a minute and you know, 50 seconds or minute 60 second, whatever work.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, come and see that. Come and meet the horses. Come and meet the personalities and see when they go. So when you go out and see them race, you have more appreciation for them because you know them.
Yeah, that's
as
awesome.
Individuals, right? And you go, wow.
And I think like a lot of people, like, there's all the activists that are like human rights activists, and I mean you're advocating for the horses that are no longer serving a purpose,
right?
And that's a big thing. But the horses before they race they're treated quite well, or like they're
athletes.
Yeah.
You know, you have to. If you don't treat an athlete well, you try to run a 100-yard dash or a 15K without prepping.
Yeah,
ain't gonna happen.
It ain't happening.
No. So you do. They're treated extremely well, a lot of them, and then but at the end of the day, when they're done, and you know, people want to flip them or get other ones, move out, or whatever the case may be, you can resell them to somebody else that may want to try to race them. But if they decide enough was enough, that's where we come in. That's where it's so important to honor these horses for what they've given to us, may it be through financial means or pleasure to the spectator or whatever the case may be, that we owe them more than just tossing them aside. You know, and so we're trying to create that assistance for them to make that transition, and working with any other organizations out there too that help with the horses, no matter if they're thoroughbreds, centerbreds, whatever, to rehome.
It does speak to our society, the disposable society that we have.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we're disposing of animals, we dispose of cars, we dispose of everything so much
out of
faster.
sight, out of mind.
Yeah, it's like nothing.
Well,
nothing seems to have value to us anymore. Not the way that it used to.
Short-term value. Yeah.
Yeah, very short term. And throwing it away, getting something to replace it seems to be kind of a standard practice nowadays with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. With kids, I mean, throw away kids. You think, just go in the system will take care of them.
Programs
Well, the foster program, that seems to be a
and
pretty...
kids in care.
Yeah.
Kids in care.
You hit the age 18 and then off you go, or 17, and it's like, wait,
you're an adult now.
You're an adult now. Go
do your thing.
Yeah.
What?
But they haven't been. The problem is that they haven't been prepared for it. Like,
they're not prepared. I mean, you think about it when we did. You know, we grew up in an era. You know, I grew up on farms, and you learned, and your work ethic, all that stuff was different. However, we grew up earlier, and we were more responsible, I think, at an earlier age. So you think about it now, they're so protected. You mentioned earlier about bubble wrapping these kids.
Yeah.
You can't. They need to fall down and scrape and get dirty and learn and figure it out. They got to do that.
Well,
They
we were talking about that with snowplow parents. Like, they're not even helicopter parents anymore. It's snowplow parents. The parents just bulldoze everything in front of these kids. So these kids don't face any challenges, and then we get into the real world. Yeah. They have no idea what to do. And then they expect everybody else to bow down. That's why you have safe spaces in universities now, and that's why you have, because the kids they're not prepared. They've been bulldozed everything, and the schools don't help matters. So it's
difficult.
The parenting
it's difficult
and
for schools. It's difficult for parents. Social media has really put a monkey wrench in everything. They're on their phones more than they are talking to people. As you see, you can go out and have 6 people at a table. You're all on their phone. You don't have a communication anymore. No. Kids don't learn social contact. They don't learn how to deconstruct and figure out. They just Google. Well, Siri, so what do I do when something happens to my car? Fix it. Yeah. Oh, okay, that's a good idea. Who fixes it? Try an auto shop. Oh, okay. What's an auto shop? Yeah, I mean, it's out of control.
Yeah.
But it got to that point not because of the kids. It got to the point. I think lawyers had a lot to do with stuff because and parents jumping to the lawyers quickly to sue the schools for
doing anything. Yeah, they did.
And teachers they're pretty well hamstringed. They're literally not allowed to do anything creative anymore. Yeah. It's like, follow this rigid thing right now. If you say this, you are in trouble. Lawyers are going to come see you.
Well, they're not. The kids aren't learning history either now. Like, they're not learning where we came from as a society.
Well, they're learning history.
Yeah, they're learning the new history, which is that we were terrible people, and we need to make up for all the bad stuff that people did 300 years ago.
I got great friends that are teachers, and they say the same. They struggle within the system trying to do what they want to do and know that they should be doing because of one or two may say something and then it goes to the principal. Then you can't do it. They say, well, yeah, but no, okay, well, I can't. And they try to work within that, and it's real tough. There's some great people in there.
It's the school board, and it's above that. It's the political influence.
Tough dynamic.
Like, you're looking at those kids in Surrey. Did you see that on the news like yesterday? I saw that on social media. And the Surrey School District, and I'm going to name Surrey School District because whoever this guy was on the news, and I'll name him later if I can think of his name. He's more upset that the video was released on social media than the fact that this kid got the crap beat out of him.
Right.
And there's a bunch of kids that bullied him and ganged up on him. He was more upset about the fact, and he said it on the news, I'm really upset that it got released. And luckily the boy's okay. There's no empathy for the kid. It's all about the system and the political strings that are being pulled. And now this kid's afraid to go back to school because his dad's afraid because these kids are going to just gang up on him. Yeah. There's no repercussions for these kids. So now there's not enough guys like you out there that can talk to these kids, that the kids will actually listen to them, and they're just running
that's a key right there. Is somebody that the kids will listen to, somebody that is credible to them. Not credible to the powers that be, but credible to the kids and still connected to the other side.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like to be a legitimately credible person to young kids and youth is a tough.
It's hard to connect.
Practice.
That's when I was teaching, at college level, and see the people your students in the classroom, and they could give me A papers. They could write a wonderful, thesis, etc. However, when it came to connecting with the student, rarely.
Yeah.
Because like I said earlier, the kids they've never asked me if I had a master's degree or if I had 2 master's degrees or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. In fact, if I said yes, they probably go, oh, geez. And so then they're going, okay, cool. But no kid has ever asked me for that. Adults have asked me for that, but no kids have asked me for that.
Yeah.
And that's the key. They want somebody who can connect and who respects their voice. Like I mentioned to you about the principal who talked to my drama group.
Yeah.
I had a drama group. They did a performance at a middle school, and they wrote it. It was real. It was raw. It was uncensored, and the kids that they performed it to loved it. We were in the parking lot leaving, and the principal came out. He wasn't in the performance, but he heard from a teacher or two that we said shit and whatever in the performance. Mm-hmm. So he came out, and he was disappointed that we used foul language. And he was looking at me while the kids were around me talking, standing there, and he was looking at me saying this, and I said, whoa, back up. I said, they're right here. If you want to say something to them, just say something to them. So he started saying it's inappropriate, appropriate language. And the one girl that was in the group, Jasmine, she stopped and she said, excuse me, she said, if you can't handle the language, how the F are you going to deal with the issues? And he never said a word. What he didn't know was that Jasmine was living on the street, maintaining a 4.0 GPA, and this guy had no idea, and he was condescending and talking down to her, and she put him right in his place.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful to watch, and he looks at me, and I went, hey, dude, Dave, you talked to right there.
Yeah.
And the fact that I allowed them to do that, and I diverted from me to them, and they had this conversation afterwards, oh, thank you. Most would say, yeah, and start to kiss up, and hey, ain't happening.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. So from that point on, every kid that was involved in the drama group, they scripted the own play, they wrote it, it wasn't censored, it was clean. Whoever came to the performance understood that this is what you got. And if you didn't want it, again, deal with the issues. They're real. If you can't handle them, then get out of the kitchen.
And I think that is, again, censorship. We're seeing that everywhere now. Like, oh, well, people can't handle that. Well, if you can't handle that, what the hell are you doing in the world? Yeah, life is hard. It sucks sometimes. Like, let's admit it, that it sucks. There's some really shitty things that happen to people in our world.
I love that yesterday on Faceplant. Facebook. The censorship. Oh, does anybody think that Trudeau is qualified to censor? And I'm sorry, I mentioned a politician. However,
no, we're allowed to mention them. We're just not.
The point is that it doesn't matter who it is. Censorship is not right.
Yeah.
So never mind who you're talking about. No. Stop it. Censorship is the wrong approach. It's not going to fix anything at all, ever. Censorship it's insane.
You know, at the core of everything, when you think of what's going on in the world, you just want to shake your head. You know, the South, everything. But we got to get back to the core of caring about each other and you know, reconnecting, not dividing, accepting, try to understand, acknowledge, honor. You may not like some things, you may not agree with some people, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
But
and I saw something yesterday on Facebook again. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I hate you.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that don't agree with you, and if they don't agree with you, they hate you. And the venom that comes out, and it's like, it's unbelievable what some people have said.
I think the key you mentioned is understanding. I mean, understanding is a simple word, but apparently nobody feels like that's needed anymore. Like, why should we understand other people and their issues and their problems? It's my world.
You wonder why these kids are rebelling. I mean, like, the kids always rebel. That's the thing. It hasn't changed. Kids have been rebelling for thousands of years.
It's their job. They're literally put on this planet to rebel.
We need to go back to, oh my gosh, the days when I used to do presentations in the classrooms. I'd do stuff on Martin Luther King and how corporations market and child labor and so on.
Yeah.
Kids loved it, and that's not done much anymore. I'd love to be able to see here, say in Langley, kids, are you listening? What I'd like you to do is get everybody together, get those schools, get everyone together and do a peace walk, a kindness walk, and just have a show. Just walk down Main Street of Langley, hundreds of you, just saying it's about peace,
it's about love,
it's about connection, it's about love, it's about caring, and just say we're here. We are the next generation. We're going to be gone in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
These children are coming into a world that they need to create is theirs, not ours. And so have a voice, guys. Get on out there. Get people together because you are the future. And have your voice. Say it loud and proud. Get involved. And let the people know in the community you're here and you're involved and you're going to make a difference.
Eventually they will listen.
They will.
And the problem is the only ones that are getting listened or heard are the victims.
Yeah.
And it's the race to be the biggest victim. And then, like Martin Luther King, you said, and he dreamt of a day when his children would be judged by their character, but not by the color of their skin. One of my heroes. And now you are identified by the color of your skin before anything else that goes on. And that's from our top down, from our government. It's absolutely atrocious.
The mentality is drilled into our kids. It starts at the schools. It's like the way that they handle everything. It's about the victim. It's not about anything else. It's a victim issue. And how can we expect our kids to learn anything different if that's what we're teaching them?
We got to reintroduce them to those that we grew up with. Because, again, when I'd go in and ask kids who they knew, if Martin Luther King was or what, I mean, half of them didn't know. and we're not doing a good job of reminding who Martin Luther King is, or John F. Kennedy, or Mother Teresa. All these people who we automatically go, oh yeah, oh wow, just that energy. They don't see it. They don't have it. We have people today, like, we talked about Patch Adams and guys like that who create a different way of engaging, create a different way of living in the world. And, meeting him, it reinforced the work that I was doing and how I was doing. It was so amazing.
Yeah.
And you just honor those people. We don't have a lot of those people anymore. And so we need to revisit
Because they've been
that.
silenced. They've been silenced.
But there's not enough, though. There's not enough people. You don't see those kind of people. You don't hear, like, wow, this person's out there marching and making civil rights. You don't hear it anymore. So we got to reintroduce these kids back to, remember these guys. You show that video up of these people saying, this is what they do. He gave his life.
Yeah.
So you could be sitting in this classroom with all the diversity you see around you. How do you think he'd feel right now?
He would be, he's rolling over in his grave right now, I guarantee you, because he was
That's
about
what you throw out
equality and equality of everybody has the same opportunity, but now they've gone the whole other way, and they're trying to socially construct our society into...
And I think one of the things that's happening is we're looking at a society where if there's people out there that are activists like that are trying to better things for them, it's way too easy and simple for people that are on the opposite side to just jump all over social media and condemn them and make their life miserable. And I mean, I understand that there used to be a lot of hate against them before as well, but now you're getting the worldwide hate dumped on you through social media, and that can't make that a very pleasant.
Debating is now gone. The art of debate is gone, and that's the whole reason. Like Ryan and I, we hardly get along. Like, well, we get along, but we have very different points of view.
Healthy discussions.
We have very healthy discussions, but we all have the end goal is we want a better world.
The end goal,
Exactly.
We want a better world. Reiner, you got
Keep your eye on
grandkids.
the
I've got
prize.
kids. I want a good world for my kids, and we
Your eye on the
have
prize.
the same ideas, and I'm sure you do too. Like, you want a better country for everybody that we and
It starts with just how we treat each other each day.
Yeah.
How you look at Christmas time is the worst. You go in the mall and people got their heads down and they're bolting. They don't even say hello anymore. It's like, what? This is Christmas. Whoa, back up here. Why don't you? I challenge people. I used to challenge kids all the time. Is how many of you walk into a cafeteria or walk down the hallway and stop to say hello to somebody new each day?
Mm-hmm.
How many of you can do that? It's hard to do. We get in this comfort place of your routine every day, and how dare we open up the door to have another person come in. It's like the thing with the hands. I get students to put their hands together, and I said, okay, keep your hands together. What I'd like you to do is I'd like to take your hands and open them up and then switch positions, put it back and hold it there. How does it feel? They're going, oh, it's weird, oh, it doesn't work right, it's uncomfortable. What do you want to do? I'm going to go right back there. Oh, there it is. Well, there's your comfort place. What I'm asking you to do is do this. And invite somebody into your world and say hello to somebody, or change the way that you're going to school one day, or change how you act in the world, and it'll happen. And you just keep doing it, and you 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 keep doing it, and eventually this becomes the norm, not this.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, the kids love that stuff, and it's just awesome.
What's the power of habit, right?
And
The
it's
small
not even
habits.
complicated, and that's the thing.
not complicated.
The solutions are not really complicated. But people have to let them exist. They have to let them happen. You can't just keep pushing them
They have to fall
aside.
down. They have to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like when I got hurt, same thing. I had to go from A to B. I couldn't do the way I used to, but I had to either go this way or that way or this way or this way, or have somebody come in to help me do this. But I got to B.
How did
Right.
speaking of that, how did your dad react after your accident? Your dad's obviously a big part of your life. We didn't really talk about your mom, but
My mom was more of she raised 5 boys. There's 5 of us. My dad was always traveling and going, and he'd coming and going. Even over the later years, he was in and out, off and on. But my mom was always, she raised us. She was the stalwart. She passed away 2010, cancer, way too early. And she got the phone. I remember asking her in the book, I write about it, how I talked to her about it and asked her, where were you at the time, what happened? And she told me about she was on the farm and she got a phone call, and it happened, and her and my brother Andre jumped on a plane right away and came down, and they were there. My mom and my brother were there for me that first month or so. First couple weeks, my brother stuck and was there, and he was great. My brother Andre, he lives in Abbotsford, or pardon me, Aldergrove, but he would, I remember when I first day into the chair, I got in the chair and I'm like, oh crap, man, what is this? And I'm trying to figure out, and boom, I popped this wheelie. And I'm like, shit, this is cool. And I did a whole wheelie around the ward, and my brother was right beside me in a chair. So we were racing each other, my very first time in a chair. And I knew, okay, this is cool. And I was popping a wheelie, and the nurse was going, oh man, you're supposed to be in this. This is bizarre.
Yeah.
And I had a great time. My brother, that just really helped a lot. My mom was there, stayed with a friend for about a month, and she was in and out every day. My dad drove through and stopped in for a day and said hello and was there.
Yeah.
He's always, you know, from that era, you know, he's always quiet,
Yep.
you know, but he was there. And so that was it. My brothers all were, without a beat, supportive. Again, my one brother, Andre, whenever I needed a ramp at a house, boom. When I needed help designing a jogger so I could get back behind the horses again, boom. He was always there. All my brothers, without a hesitation, never said, oh, no, you can't or you shouldn't or what do you need?
Yeah.
And so it allowed me to do so much. And I know that they're proud of where I've come and what I've done. And without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. So it made a big difference having family, my friends, and around to help make it happen.
Well, yeah, man, you have an amazing story. I think we even scratched the surface on this stuff.
Oh, we're going to have to do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great. Before yesterday, I popped on your channel because you asked me. You said, "Did I?" Yeah, I did. I actually did. I went on, and I admire what you do because I know I've done stuff like this in the past, but it needs more of this. It needs more grassroots with people in the community. 'Cause there's heroes and sheroes all over our community. We look at the big ones that, you know, CTV News or CNN or whatever tells you about, but there's so many down the street, around the corner, your neighbor, that are doing amazing things that we need. You guys are doing a wonderful, wonderful service here, and continue to grow it and build it in any way that I can be part of that.
Awesome.
We will continue because we're seeing each other again tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to work closely together.
So we'll talk more about it.
Yeah,
and
no.
I just think it's wonderful, and more
Stay
people
tuned.
involved, and having these conversations with you gets out to the people out there, and you need to tune in more and share your thoughts, and refer people that you know that would make a difference, the people to hear.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to have happen.
And you comment, this turn from, like, we call it common sense warriors because, like, we're kind of teasing the social justice warriors that are out there that are really kind of ruining everything for everybody. Like, special interest groups are kind of, they're ruining everything as far as.
I personally believe there is a war on common sense, and we're losing.
Yeah.
And that's where the name of our podcast came from, is that, you know what? We really need to become warriors for common sense, and there's so much benefit in this for us, like not monetary or anything like that, but we get to sit down for an hour and hang out with people. I've known people that were on our show already, and we haven't done that many shows. We're at a dozen right now, but I've known these people for years, and then when you hear their story, you're like, wow, that's a hell of a story. I had no idea, and that's the beauty of what we're doing, and that's what we're trying to do is let the average person get to meet the real person, not just the business, not just the sale, but the person. How did you get here?
Well, yeah, and it was business owners have been vilified in the last 3 or 4 years, absolutely vilified. And I, as a business owner, and my wife's a business owner, so I come from a family. We're an entrepreneurial family, and to hear our political leaders call us tax cheats, and we're just using it as a tax haven, like go shove it up your ass, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But what we're realizing here is that the people behind the business and the entrepreneurs all have a story. They've all come through adversity, and that's really what we're discovering. And it's kind of, we're accidentally just discovering this whole new world of people behind, and it's awesome. And I'm getting a lot more out of it.
That's what builds community. That's what community is about. And you know, again, it's something that's truly important. And you see it here in Langley, in this area. There's really a good group of individuals that make a difference. And the community, like I said, it takes all kinds. Yeah. And we need all kinds. You can't just single out certain bunches. That don't cut it, man. It's boring as hell. Exactly. You need a diversity. You need all 32 flavors. You know, you can't just take one flavor. You got to have 32 flavors because it's all good.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, we're going to wrap up, but Jerome's donated 3 books for us to give away. So if you have, if you're watching our YouTube, comment, tell us what your favorite part of the interview was. comment, and we'll send you the first 3 people that comment on our podcast on YouTube will get we'll get an autographed copy of your book, Unbreakable: The Power of the Human Spirit. Jerome,
We're going to do a really quick speed round.
we've got a speed round for you. But before Reiner does that, thank you so much, brother. It was awesome.
Oh, it's wonderful. I'm glad I got an opportunity.
Yeah.
And to the listeners out there, it's nice to have you sitting there listening. You know, and the nonprofit that we're doing, the Safe Haven
Yeah.
for the horses.
Well, we'll
if you
get-
love horses, you care about horses, please reach out to the businesses that may want to support us to help make this happen, that are horse lovers or
Yeah.
animal lovers. Please reach out because we're growing. We need you.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, Jerome, just quickly answer.
All right.
So I'm going to start, probably be about 4 or 5 questions here. So let's start with, do you believe in fate?
Yeah, we do.
Why do you think we can't tickle ourselves?
Because we want more interaction with others, so you need other people to tickle yourself.
There you go. That's a good view. Favorite type of tea?
Well, my wife says orange piqué. She's
Yeah,
South African, so I always say, "What kind of tea you want, Hunter? Piqué? No, it's
Piqué.
pico. Pico.
Yep,
Orange
exactly.
pico."
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would probably say, well, Star Wars is really cool, but Star Trek is where it all began.
Exactly. All right, I'm going to end it with that.
My answer,
Thank you,
to
my
that
brothers.
is, my answer to that is yes, but yeah. Jerome, man, we'll get you on again soon when we'll help you get
Anytime.
your
Awesome.
your nonprofit up and running,
Thank
and then let's get some fundraising for that going. And you haven't heard the last of Jerome.
We'll keep rattling cages there, guys.
All right, brother. Thanks
You
a
bet.
lot.